Okay, so today I'm going to walk us through setting up a new church in the Lift database. So you go to cohesion.com and then you go to login. Under account, it's going to say Lift. Username will be Life Matters WW. And the password will be written down somewhere at the Life Matters in the office building. So now we'll log in. This is our administrator account. To start with, we'll be going into this tab right here that says Application Builder. Now the applications that we need are already made for us. We have churches, recipients' needs, skills, which won't be used, visits, and volunteers. Churches we can skip over, that's optional. Recipient, we'll need one for every church that's in our database. So as you can see, I've made Grace Bible Church recipients, and I've made Church 2 recipients. For now, we'll just use Church 2. But if you were going to make a new church and put it into the system, you'd go to Recipients, press the little gear, and hit Add Project. When you do that, you'll type in Church 3 recipients, like that. But because we're not adding a Church 3 right now, then we won't be doing this. And Church 3 will just be the name of the church. Then you'll, with recipients' needs, it's all going to be stored in one single table, so there's no need to make extra tables for recipients' needs. Skills, same thing, and then visits, each church gets its own table, and volunteers, each church gets its own table. We are now on the Administration tab near the bottom of the toolbar on the Cohesion layout. So here we're going to go to Security and Users. Once we're in the Users tab, we can see all of the users of our database. We have Church 2 Administrator, Grace Bible Church Administrator, Life Matters Worldwide, that's us, and then Grace Bible Church Volunteer. We're going to make a volunteer profile and an administrator profile for every church that's in our system. Over here, in this area, you can see the username and the password, as well as the email address for every account that's been made. Now this is important because if we ever need to change the password on one of these accounts, this is where you'll do it. You'll go in here, change the password, and then write the same password to confirm. So when we first made new tables for Church 3, or in this case we're just using the tables for Church 2, what we're going to do is we're going to want to go into this box down here where it says Projects and Permissions. So these projects are the projects that we saw in the Application Builder tab right here. These are the projects that we made. So we have a Church 2 Recipients, a Church 2 Visits, and a Church 2 Volunteers. For Church 2 Administrator, this administrative account that we currently have selected, we're going to go to each of these 3 projects that are associated with Church 2, and you're going to hold down your Control key and click on the following permissions: Create Records, Delete Records, Edit Records, and View Records. When you hold down the Control key, it will let you select multiple entries. If you don't hold down the Control key, then it will only let you select one of these, and that's not what we want to do. So now go to Church 2 Visits and do the same thing. And volunteers. What this is going to let us do is we can create or put into the system the names of recipients, we can delete recipients, and we can edit recipients. We can also view all the recipients that are associated with Church 2. We can do the same thing with visits, and most importantly, we can put in volunteers into the system. Putting in new volunteers is something that the volunteer account won't be able to do. Only the pastor or administrator or coordinator of the program will be able to have full access to the volunteers table. Finally, you're going to go down to Recipients Needs, and you're going to click on, you can see I already have it selected here, Create Records and View Records. This is going to allow them to create records which describe the needs of the recipients and view those records, but they won't need any of the other options. Now we're going to go up here to this plus sign near the top right hand corner where it says create a new user. Click on that. So now we're going to create the volunteer account for Church 2. So we'll call this Church 2 Volunteer. I'll make the password for now. We're going to change that in the future. But you should make the password into something secure. The first name can be anything. We'll just make it Church 2. The email we don't currently have, but ideally this would probably be going to the coordinator, just like the administrator account would be the pastor's email. We'll go with church2@test.com. That's the same email used for the administrator account. The date format should be set to month/day/year. That's the normal format used in America. This software comes from Canada, so you'll notice later on that when it's having you select a time for a visit, it's on a 24-hour clock. That's because there's no option for an AM/PM. We can set the permissions for this volunteer account in the same way that we set the permissions for the administrator account earlier. You simply have to select the project over here, and then, because this is recipients, we'll go over to permissions and select Create, Edit, and View. Only the administrator account will be able to delete these records. For visits, we'll select Create, Delete, Edit, and View. For volunteers, we'll select View. This is because the volunteer account only needs to be able to select a volunteer to use during visits. They don't need to be able to create, delete, or edit their own accounts or information about them. Finally, we're going to go to Recipients Needs, Create, and View. And that's going to be it. That's all the information that we need for Church 2 Volunteer. Make sure that you didn't add Grace Bible Church to any of these entries, because Church 2 Volunteer only needs to see information that is linked to Church 2. Then hit Save. Oh. Right. Password must contain one character that's not a letter. Alright, that's right. I made the password. Alright, I'll make the password 12. Again, this is going to get changed later. Now hit Save. The password ideally should probably be secure when this account is made, but I'm just doing this for test purposes. Now you can see that we have Church 2 Volunteer in our list of users. And you can see their permissions over here, and their password can be changed at any time. So now I'm back here at the login screen once again. Now, I changed the name, the username of the account. Let me put that in real quick. And the password. So when we first pull into the volunteer account, we're going to want to go up here where it says Preferences, and the initials on the Preferences icon will be different based on the name of the account. When we go here, we're going to change Start View to Dashboard. Then we're going to go to Date Format, and if it already is not so, it should say month/day/year. Then go down here and click Save. So when we go down to the dashboard, which is this icon here, we're going to want to create some widgets. But before we do that, we're going to go to the workspace. There are two searches we'll need to create first. So go here where it says Create New Search. We're going to go to Church 2 Visits for this first search. Hit Next. Then, under Visits, it will say again, Church 2 Visits. This name will be different depending on the name of the church. Click that and hit Next. Now we're going to name our search. This will be Church 2 Visits Upcoming, and it will dictate what visits we have in the next 7 days. Where it says Sort Results By, click on Date, and then click the over arrow that will put it into the Selected Options column. Like so. Now, scroll down. Here, we're going to set our sort order. You're going to click on Date, and go to the Easy Date selector. Select Next 7 Days. Now scroll down. Under Visit Complete, you're going to select No. What this is going to do is select the next visits in the next 7 days, sort them by those that have not yet been completed, and it's going to allow us to create a widget to keep track of those visits. Hit Next. Now hit Finish. Here's a list of our upcoming visits. These are test entries put into the database. Now click Create New Search. We're now going to create our second search. Once again, select Church 2 Visits, or the name of the church, Visits. Hit Next. And under Visits, select Church 2 Visits. Hit Next. This one is going to say, Church 2 Visits Missed. Select Date, and move it to the selected options. Now, we're going to sort order descending instead of ascending. Next, under Date, we're going to go to the Easy Date selector, and select Overdue instead of Next 7 Days. It will be Overdue, and then Visits Complete will once again be No. This sort is going to show us what visits are past their due date but have not yet been completed. Now hit Finish. As you can see, in this test database, there are no missed visits yet, but for visits which have not yet been performed, that is, their Visit Complete checkbox hasn't been checked. When the due date for those visits comes and goes, they will be added to the overdue pile. Now, we're going to go back to Dashboard. Back to our Start view for this account. Click Create Widget. We're going to go to Search, right there, and hit Next. Now, we're going to go to Church 2 Visits and scroll down to Church 2 Visits Upcoming. Then hit Next. Now, we're going to choose what will be viewed in the widget. The order here is somewhat important. We want to click Date first and then move it over into the Selected Options pile. Date should be first, followed by Purpose, then Need, then Recipient, then Volunteer. We want to leave out Notes and Visit Complete. Don't add those. What we should have is Date, then Purpose, Need, Recipient, and Volunteer. Click Finish. This has added a widget to our Start page that shows us what visits are upcoming in the next 7 days. Now, go up here to this plus sign. where it says Create a New Dashboard Widget. Click that. Once again, go to Search and hit Next. Now, select Church 2 Visits Missed and hit Next. Once again, the same order. Date, followed by Purpose, followed by Need, followed by Recipient, and followed by Volunteer. Then hit Finish. As you can see, there are no records found for missed visits in this for this particular account. But that's going to change if those visits go by and the checkboxes marked Visit Complete are never checked. This will be important to keep track of any missed visits that happen for a real LIFT program associated with a real church. Now the last one will not require a search. Go ahead and click Create a New Dashboard Widget. Then go to Project Portfolio. Then click Next. Go to Visits, Next. You can click Next through this also. Then go to Project Name and move only that option into the Selected Options column. Then hit Next. Now click on Visit Complete and hit Finish. This is going to show us how many visits have been completed overall by this particular branch of the LIFT program, and how many visits are yet to be completed. You can see from this that there are 2 visits that are registered that haven't been completed, and 2 of those visits are in the next 7 days. This widget will tell us what's coming up in the next week, while this widget will be able to tell us how much has gotten done and how much is coming up past the next week. So if I had a visit scheduled for 3 weeks away, this number would be 3, and then we would be aware that there are more visits coming down the pipes than just what shows up in this widget. Now we're in the Workspace tab. The Workspace icon is located directly beneath the Preferences icon. Go here to get to the Workspace. Where it says Calendar, click on that. It's going to pull up for you a page that says Add Calendar and Add Search to Calendar. First click Add Calendar. Name the calendar Visits. Hit OK. Now click Add Search to Calendar. Select Visits. Hit Next. And then, where it says Church 2 Visits, or the name of the church, Visits, go to All Records. This is going to show us every visit in the far future and distant past that this program is associated with. Click Next. And then click Finish. Make sure date is still selected. It should be by default. Now, when you go to Visits, right here under Calendars, click on that, and it will show you all of the visits that month. It will also allow you to hover your mouse over one of the visits, and you'll be able to see all of its details. This concludes everything that should be created when you create a volunteer and administrator profile for a church. So if I were going to First Baptist Church and I were going to make a page for them, I should make 2 accounts, one called First Baptist Admin and one called First Baptist Volunteer. I'll go through this process to create these widgets and to create this calendar on both of those accounts. Finally, in order to create reports and send out emails to the people associated with these accounts, we'll go back to the administrator account, Life Matters. Now I'm back at the login page. I'm going to log back in to Life Matters WW. Next, I'm going to go here, where it says Reports. Reports tab. We're going to go up to This Week's Visits. Click on this once. We're now going to make a report that's going to be sent out to people, volunteers, and the coordinator who are associated with a particular church to show them that week's visits. So, in this case, we're not doing Grace Bible Church. We'll be doing Church 2. So we're going to select Church 2 Visits Upcoming, or whatever church, visits upcoming. Click on that, and then hit Next. Then we're going to group fields by volunteer. Move volunteer into the selected options column. Then click on date down below. We're going to sort fields by date. Move it into the selected options column. Then click Finish. That's going to generate this report that you can see in front of you. So we can see our volunteer is Carrie Amberson, and we can see in the next week the date and time of every visit that this person has volunteered to do. It would also show us at the bottom of the list visits that need to be performed but don't have any volunteers signed to them yet. Next, we're going to go up here with this little clock. That says Schedule the Report. Click on that. Check Create a New Schedule. Then hit Next. We're going to make this schedule name Weekly Report. Now, normally, you would want to send this to the user's admin. So, in this case, Church 2 is the admin of Church 2. But most importantly, we want to put all of the email addresses of the volunteers in this box here. This, the admin account, should be associated with the pastor or coordinator of the program. The send to emails is the most important part, because that means that this report is going to get sent out to volunteers who are part of the program. So, I'll give an example. volunteer@gmail.com. And then you would go on to list all of the other volunteers after that. Make sure that those volunteer names are accurate and that we know the emails. You'll probably have to go into the All Records section of the volunteers table for this church and look at their email addresses. Those are the email addresses that you'll want to add into this report wizard. So I'll give you a minute to do that. Pause the video and go ahead and write down those email addresses. Okay, so once you've done that, come back here. Now, we're going to schedule this once a week, every Sunday. So go down to the third option, right here, and click Every Sunday of every 1 weeks. So what this is going to do is, at 12:01 a.m. every Sunday, it will generate a report of all of the visits scheduled for the next week, and send that report out to all of the volunteers associated with this program. The information will be delivered to them, and it isn't reliant on them continuously logging in to check and see what the visits are scheduled for. Click Finish. Now, if we go up here to Options, we can see Manage Scheduled Reports. You can see here that we have our weekly report scheduled for every Sunday of every 1 weeks. That's the report that's going to run, and it's going to be sent out to everyone included on the email list.